Hi, I'm Rob Cosman. Welcome to my shop. We recently did a video comparing using a skew chisel to scraping on the lathe. And the question was asked, how do you sharpen your skew chisel? So I'll show you a couple of methods. I'm lucky in having a lot of equipment. I actually have two 16-inch disc sanders. This one I keep detached from my dust collector because I use it for metal, and the one on the other side of the shop I use for wood. It just so happens that this works out well. If I rest the end of my, by the way, I prefer to keep these bevels flat, not concave. I got about a 20-degree slope this way, and if you were to measure this bevel, it's about 20 degrees, so it's easy to remember. And I just use the same one all the time, so it's not a big deal. But if I set my skew chisel handle in this miter gauge slot and hold it over there against that wheel with that pretty much up and down, that cutting edge, and then flip it around the other way to do the other side. It doesn't heat it up excessively. I keep some water handy just in case. I'll just show you how I do it. Of course, you want to be easy going into it, and that's coming up this way, but it's a dull enough belt. I've never had a problem with it catching. Ease your way on until you can feel the bevel make contact. And I'm just on and off. Just gives it a little chance to cool down a bit. Do that until you got a nice clean bevel. If you're resharpening, obviously, when you feel a burr, you know you've done that side, and then go over and do the opposite. I try to keep that point centered in the skew. Just looks a little neater. Dip it if you have to. And then that raises a bit of a burr, so what I do is just take a piece of wood and just run back and forth until that burr comes off. It's good and sharp. We'll go over and actually I'll try it, but before we do that, let me take you over to the bench grinder and show you another method. Okay, so this is a 1/2-inch skew chisel, measured 1/2 inch this way, and I've modified a little bit. I've rounded the corners so that it doesn't dig in on the tool rest. This is a bench grinder, but what I have on there is a CBN wheel. We actually had these custom made so that we have abrasive on 3 sides, here, here, and on the front. I don't want to use the front because that will make it hollow ground. I want it flat. So I'm going to turn this on. The nice thing about that bevel is wide enough that it's easy to locate. And I've got the tool rest such that the end of this chisel is pretty much plumb. And I'll just feel my way in there so I make contact. Nice thing about the CBN wheel is that it cuts nice and cool. It's a big thick hunk of steel, and it ends up absorbing a lot of the heat from the grinding process, unlike a traditional wheel. Now this one, the surface is much narrower, so I'm going to have to move forward and back in order to cover the whole surface. If you're just going in and resharpening after having used the chisel, this doesn't take very long. Now, that leaves a burr, just like the other method. What you can do, these are diamond impregnated steel plate. Trend makes them. You can go in there and just lay that flat on there and just hone that a little bit. I don't want to put another bevel out here on the tip. I just want to get rid of the burr. So it's just a matter of flipping it back and forth. And that's gone. And if it wasn't, you could go in there and again use a piece of wood just to flip it back and forth. Now, a third method, if you want to do it by hand, I prefer a diamond stone just because it's more aggressive. And this is going to take a lot more skill because you essentially have to be able to hold that. Now, it's a pretty wide bevel, so you can go in there, locate that, and then just move that forward and back. I keep a lot of pressure right on the bevel with my left middle finger. And the diamond stone will cut quite rapidly, not anywhere near like a bench grinder is, but it's certainly faster than a water stone or a ceramic stone. And you don't really need to go any higher than this. I think I'm using a 600 grit, so Try to maintain that one bevel. And do that until you get a bit of a burr on there, and then go through the same procedure of flipping it back and forth until the burr's gone. Unlike a chisel or a plane blade, because of the power of the lathe, you can make a edge do a lot more than you would think, based on the fact that we take our plane blades and our chisels up to 16,000, and I'm stopping at 600. All right, go over to the lathe and we'll try these two out and just show you how nice they work. With a sharp skew, just peels that wood off, leaving a surface that on this northern white pine, I could probably go in with just one grit of paper, 220, and be done in a matter of seconds. In the next couple of weeks, we'll do a couple of videos on helping you get started with a skew chisel. Learn to use it. It's absolutely fun on the lathe. It cuts so nice and clean. Hope this helps.